Hey folks, Lemonade here, and today we're going to be looking at the differences between an Artisan Mid, an Artisan XSoft, and what the heck is the Hayate Kou and who is it for? We'll get into it. Alright, so let's get the specs and pricing out of the way. The pricing is the current total cost with shipping to the US directly from Artisan. We don't pay anything extra beyond that. I know some countries have extra duty costs, so you will have to check on that. If you decide you like this video, don't forget to like and sub at some point. It does help the channel a lot. Thanks. Okay, so sizing, we have the medium is the smallest size for the Kou, which is 310 by 240, and that goes for $45 shipped. The large, which is what we have here for both these pads, is 420 by 330, and that goes for $54 shipped. And the XL is 490 by 420, and that is $62 shipped. The mid comes in 3mm thickness. The XSoft and soft are both 4mm in thickness. The firmness of the base does not affect pricing at all. Design only comes in black for the Hayate Kou. Okay, so let's cover some baseline stuff here real quick. The Hayate Kou is a non-coated polyester fabric pad. The X and Y axis are not uniform, they are different. We'll get into more on that later. Both use a pour-on foam, so there's obviously a difference in feel because of the firmness. Logo is printed into the surface. You cannot feel it. It's totally flush and even, which is really nice to see. Humidity resistance is great on both. More so on the mid, probably, if you're wondering. It's more likely due to its thinner and more rigid foam. Stitching on both is fantastic. As per Artisan's reputation, it's thin, consistent, not noticeable at all. The mid is more flush with the surface, while the XSoft, the stitching is slightly below the surface. Now, let's talk about the overall feeling of the Hayate Kou surface. So the surface is very lightly textured. It's hardly noticeable. It's almost a smooth, very light kind of sandpaper feel. Super, super nice and comfortable. Less textured than the Venus from Lethal Gaming Gear, but it's actually kind of similar to the X10 Control, but also more textured than a GSRE Rouge by Zowie. So its description of fitting between a control and speed pad is super fitting. It's actually similar in overall feel, like surface feel, to the Lethal Gaming Gear Saturn, even though the weave itself is different on the Saturn. The dynamic friction on the X-axis is about the same as the Saturn, but the Y-axis is actually quite a bit faster, making vertical tracking much smoother on the Hayate Kou. We'll get into how it fits into performance in a little bit. Now, in all my mousepad reviews, I do test the glide characteristics of your skates. So the fastest glide I found is always going to be the 4 corner feet, just like this on your Model O Glorious mice or your Final Mouse series have this kind of design. Then I found that my Corpat Air skates were pretty close, but just a touch slower, but honestly very similar. Then the Lamzu skates were next up in terms of speed. And then lastly, your kind of 2 big PTFE, the big fat ones, those are going to be your slowest on most pads. Glass skates for the Hayate Kou and XSoft here kind of fit in between the 2 big PTFE and the Lamzu, kind of in between in terms of overall speed. Now, in terms of glide characteristics on the mid for all these skates, it was pretty much the same. So let's get into why that is. Just for reference, I did swap the pads around, so the mid is now here, the XSoft is here. Now, if you came to this video because you were wondering what the difference between a mid and the XSoft is, here it is. Speed. That's it. And my gosh, when I got the mid in the mail and tried it out for the first time, it felt like a totally different pad. I mean, it's so much faster than I was expecting compared to the XSoft. Obviously the surface texture is the same, but the mid pour-on sponge almost feels like a hard pad. It does give a tiny bit, but not much. Now, I've seen a lot of players switch to mid on Twitter and Reddit because they claim they like the consistency, and that is spot on. This has also risen mousepads like the SkyPad are really popular because it's very consistent. It doesn't give. The XSoft on the flip side here has variation depending on the situation. It's near pillowy soft, so in intense moments you feel extra stopping force as you naturally kind of push down on those quick repetitive movements. With the mid having no give, it's impossible to overexert pressure into it. XSoft requires a high level of mouse control to properly enjoy it, in my opinion, so pro players shouldn't have an issue with this, but others may find this a bit annoying to kind of get used to. So then why get XSoft? Well, it depends on a few things. I'd say if you play on a lower sense, like a 40 centimeter 360 or up, and your preferred games are tac shooters like Counter-Strike, Valorant, this will be great. On the flip side here, the mid would suit someone with a bit faster sensitivity, like a 34 centimeter 360 and lower, and for games like Apex or Overwatch. In tracking heavy games, you make a lot more movement with your mouse just in general, and it's more sporadic, so naturally your mouse control will be tested harder at that point, which is why, in my personal opinion, I feel the mid would just be easier to work with over a longer gaming session. Now, let's get into performance as to why the Hayate Kou, in general, this pad is a sleeper pad. Now, if you came to the video to watch and figure out what my thoughts were on XSoft versus mid, that's pretty much it. I have nothing more to say on that, but if you're here because the Hayate Kou interests you, then stick with me for the next few minutes. Okay, so performance in game. I played these pads mostly on Shadowland and Overwatch. With such tracking heavy games as these, the Hayate Kou is honestly the best pad I've used in my experience. And I know that's kind of weird to think about because not many people talk about it, and the people who do talk about this pad think it's a weird, odd pad that they don't recommend. So here's the thing. It gives you control when you need it, right, in your kind of horizontal movements, but bursts of speed and smoothness when you have those vertical targets, or even irregular horizontal movements. And by that I mean the chances of sporadic movements happening in these type of games is much higher than in a tac shooter. When someone's like wall jumping, using a jetpack, falling off roofs, mid-air strafes, etc., all those require a certain level of smoothness that something more controlled necessarily wouldn't provide. This pad kind of works with you in the moment that matters. A good example is like in Overwatch. If you're familiar with the character Farah, she has a jetpack and she has a kind of a boost jump ability that she can engage, and she kind of shoots up into the air. Now, the trajectory is generally pretty predictable, like wherever she's at, she's going to go straight up. But obviously, at that point in the air, there can be some deviation into what direction she's moving. But the Hayate Kou kind of, locks you into the general area that she wouldn't necessarily be flying up. So she's flying up in this direction. It kind of locks you in because you have a level of control from side to side, but it gives you that really smooth, buttery, low friction tracking as you're moving up with her. And obviously there's plenty of other examples in Apex and in Shadowline with various specialists and heroes, depending on their abilities, whether they're jumping, blinking, long slides, or just any general kind of teleporting movements or things like that, or zip lines. This pad really just favors those kind of scenarios, and it happens so often in these type of games. It's really a pad that comes in clutch in these kind of moments. Now, overall thoughts. It's a sleeper of a pad that just gets very little recognition. I'd highly recommend checking this thing out, maybe ordering a small size if you're not sure, and just kind of feeling it out. Now, in terms of XSoft versus mid, like I said, you have to kind of determine where you sit as a player in the titles that you play. Hopefully the little breakdown I did can help guide you into the choice between mid versus soft. All my socials are down below with any affiliate links and discount codes. On that note, if you had a good time with me today, likes and subs are always appreciated. Leave a comment down below. Let me know when your thoughts are. But until the next Fresh Screws video, stay thirsty, folks.